I'm going to start this channel off with one of my personal favorite complete in-box games that may not be one of the most obvious. That is Final Fantasy, the original for NES. This box comes with one of the thickest manuals for an NES game that I know of, and I'll save the best part for last because it also has one of my favorite fold-out inserts of any game ever. I'll say up front that the box art has its charm, but it does leave a bit to be desired. It's extremely generic, but it's also kind of so basic that it becomes endearing again. Just a sword and an axe crossed below an evidently magical sphere with a floating city inside. Even the box's tagline is just about as basic as it gets. Enter a whole new realm of challenge and adventure. The back of the box has a few paragraphs of hype, standard for most NES games, but one minor thing that does stand out is that it contains, as far as I know, one of the franchise's few uses of the phrase, "the Final Fantasy," near the bottom. Prepare to face the Final Fantasy. The inside is really where the fun starts here, and I should mention that even before you open it, it feels packed full of stuff. It's got more weight to it than most NES games, and you don't feel anything sliding around inside. First off, we get an 84-page manual. You gotta love it when a video game's manual is so long that it has not only a table of contents, but a freaking index as well. It has all of the typical stuff that game manuals had back then. Simple instructions for how to play the game, how to fight, how to do basic things like buy stuff at a shop. But it goes beyond that. The manual includes a walkthrough all the way up until you unlock the airship. It also tells you lots of little secrets like a standalone strategy guide would do. It has advice for beating certain enemies. It shows you how you can upgrade your classes later on, and it has some neat art along the way. It also has a section with recommendations for party builds, but I do have to laugh at the heavy magic use build. Red mage, white mage, double black mage. I know this is possible, but I feel very sorry for any newcomer to this game who tried using that class combination because that would be very difficult, especially in the early game. Going beyond the manual, we have 2 fold-out inserts. It wasn't uncommon for games of this time to include a fold-out map or poster, but not many of them had 2 of these. It does of course include a world map, but it has these little boxes for you to write down notes about each place, which would have been genuinely helpful at the time. We'll come back to the other side of this one in just a minute. On this one, we also have maps of the game's dungeons. On the other side of this foldout, there's information for every equipable item in the game as well as every spell. If you're not familiar with the original Final Fantasy, this is actually pretty important because the game itself gives you no information about spells, weapons, armor, things like that. It doesn't even tell you which classes can equip what. You had to have this spreadsheet to figure out what equipment to buy. This is not perhaps the best game design, but at least they put everything in one big fold-out rather than force you to flip through the manual every time. And it looks cool. My favorite thing about this game as a complete in-box package, though, is this. On the other side of the world map, we have this awesome table of every enemy in the game along with that enemy's sprite. To me, this is one of the coolest looking video game foldouts I have ever seen. I've even been tempted to frame it as a poster if I had a good place to hang it. I mean, just look at this. Of course, it also has info about each enemy. This is the experience and gold you get for defeating them, their hit points, attack strength, weaknesses, resistances, special attacks, and a few of them have sort of mystery properties that you're supposed to fill in. My favorites are the Oddeye, the Great Pede, and Zombool. Just how cool are these guys? Not surprisingly, they keep the final boss, Chaos, silhouetted to save his appearance as a surprise. I also think it's funny that you explicitly get 0 experience and 0 gold for defeating him. It's obvious why that is. There's no New Game Plus here, and the extra XP and gold would do literally nothing for you, but it's just kind of hilarious to me that it counts as 0 experience for your guys to kill the most powerful bad guy in the entire world. But back to the foldout, this whole sheet just looks so cool, and yes, I might be a sucker for pixel art, but either way, you can tell a lot of care went into it. And the same is certainly true for this book of a manual that came along with it. This package might not have the show-off power of something like Earthbound or the iconic cover art of Doom or The Legend of Zelda, but for the manual and the enemy foldout alone, this will always be one of my favorites.